a lot of drama between the two warring factions in ZANU PF. That is the faction of retired General Chiwenga, as well as the faction of Emerson Dambudzo Mnangagwa. There were intense exchanges of words between the two factions. The faction of Emerson Dambudzo Mnangagwa, when it started the year, it thought that it was going to be a walk in the park. They never anticipated that war veterans were going to mobilize themselves under the leadership of Blessed Geza and stand against 2030 term extension. This saw the plot of Emerson Dambudzo Mnangagwa being delayed. The second phase, which was most crucial, we saw retired General Chiwenga presenting a dossier telling Emerson Dambudzo Mnangagwa to his face that he is the kingpin of 2030 term extension, and also he is the kingpin of corruption, urging him to act against corruption. And in the beginning of the year, given the 13 days to act, retired General Chiwenga have actually maximized on these 20 days, 13 days, I'm saying 20, not 20, 13 days that he has been given to act, to derive points home, especially to ZANU PF members about escalating levels of corruption. But his voice continues to be taken for granted. He continues to be undermined by those involved in corruption, actually insulting him, sending surrogates to actually speak on behalf of them to respond against retired General Chiwenga. And this can only signal one thing, that we are going to a point and a moment whereby talk is no longer going to be the order of the day, but we are bound to see action in the very near future. Greetings and welcome to your lovely channel, the Hloripani Global News. If you're watching us for the very first time, please do remember to press the red or black subscribe button so that next time when we beam live, you become the very first one to watch us. In making you understand this, I'll read a publication that has been done by one of the online publications in Zimbabwe, saying Zimbabwe's succession question has entered its most dangerous year. This was written by Gabriel Manyati. He says, a new year has dawned, and with it, a political reality Zimbabwe can no longer postpone. The year 2026 is not just another calendar turn. It is the year when the question of succession to Emerson Mnangagwa ceases to be theoretical and becomes operational. Power in Zimbabwe never moves quietly, never moves without anxiety, and never moves without the involvement of forces that sit both inside and outside a constitutional form. The contest over who succeeds Mnangagwa is now the central organizing principle of elite politics. And 2026 will expose its fault lines more clearly than any year since November 2017. Mnangagwa is constitutionally barred from contesting another term. Yet Zimbabwean politics has never been governed by constitutional text alone. It is governed by party control, security alignment, patronage distribution, and narrative management. Succession, therefore, is not a question of who is popular, nor even who is competent, but who can assemble a coalition of power strong enough to survive to both the party and the state. In the context, Vice President Constantino Chiwenga remains the most structurally advanced contender. His strength does not lie in rhetoric or public charm, but in institutional memory and military credibility. Chiwenga represents continuity of the liberation security ethos that has underpinned ZANU PF rule since independence. He is understood within the party not as an ideologue, but as a guarantor of order. It matters deeply in a system that fears rupture more than stagnation. However, 2026 will not be kind to simplistic assumption about Chiwenga's inevitability. His problem is not that he lacks power, it is that his power is too visible, too legible, and therefore too easily mobilized against. Mnangagwa's long project has been to prevent the vice presidency from becoming a coronation office. This year will likely see an intensification of that effort through strategic appointments, party disciplinary maneuvers, and quiet economic signaling to business elites that stability needs not mean military succession. This is where Gudawashe Takur enters the frame, not as a controversial candidate, but as a political concept. Takur symbolizes a possible post-liberation transition within ZANU PF, one anchored less in barracks legitimacy and more in financial patronage and state capitalism. His rise is not accidental. It reflects Mnangagwa's preference for a successor who owes his elevation to civilian networks rather than cohesive ones. In 2026, expect this dynamic to sharpen. Takur's influence will likely expand through party financing, developmental rhetoric, and alignment with empowerment narratives. Yet, his weakness remains acute. He lacks grassroots political experience and carries the burden of elite accumulation in a country fatigued by inequality. Should economic pressure intensify, his proximity to wealth may become a liability rather than an asset. The deeper story of 2026 is not the individuals, but the system struggling to reproduce itself without fracturing. ZANU PF is attempting to manage succession without opening spaces for reform or generational renewal. This is inherently unstable. The party's younger cadres are incredibly transactional, less ideological, and more impatient. Their loyalty is not automatic, it must be purchased or coerced. That makes succession both more flexible and more volatile. Mnangagwa's role this year will be paradoxical. He will insist publicly that succession is a party matter while privately shaping the terrain on which it occurs. He cannot afford a successor who will reverse his settlements or reopen old scores, nor can he afford one who lacks the capacity to hold the system together. His maneuvering in 2026 will therefore be cautious but relentless. So this is the view of this fellow. But as I have said, starting, we are going to, in literature, we call it climax of this particular conflict. We are slowly but moving towards the end of this conflict. As you have heard, I borrow the narrative that all the factions are interested in action. The other one wants continuity. The other one wants to stop this faction because it perceives it to be corrupt. It perceives it to be actually benefiting the elites, whilst the majority of the people in Zimbabwe are struggling. It perceives it to be anti-people. In simple terms, because the recent speech that has been echoed by retired General Chiwenga at the National Heroes Acre, he was unambiguous that the current state of affairs politically favors a few, whilst the majority of the people in Zimbabwe languishes in poverty. To Emerson Tambutso Mnangagwa, he is deceiving himself that he is the great leader to ever emerge from ZANU PF, and he is channeling the resource in a proper way, but that is broad daylight self-deception. So we are bound to head into a serious political head-on within the faction, there has to be some confrontation in order for the power to be usurped. You will see those seemingly powerful will be plotting, and what will cause their downfall are these plots that they are about to implement in the shortest period of time. When they attempt to, they are serious red lines that they have crossed. It's just waiting for them to make a decision to be putting them now into a national policy. That is where you will see that all hell will actually break loose. I mean, it will happen like a lightning. And they will be proven that they are, before Robert Gabriel Mugabe was removed, we used to think that he was this state in Zimbabwe. He was a, but the military made it so simple, so swift, so soft, even though behind the scenes it was very tough. Tough measures were taken, tough decisions were taken, tough fighting was being carried out secretly, but to the world they got this image of a soft coup. That is why a lot of analysts depicted it as a soft coup. Even under Emerson Mnangagwa, although it won't be soft, but we will see people seemingly powerful being embarrassed and proven that they are not as powerful as we thought. Thank you very much for watching us. If you're watching us for the very first time, please do remember to press the red or black subscribe button so that next time when we beam live, you become the very first one to watch us. You can financially support this channel by pressing the join button and be part of our members who are the heartbeat of this channel. You can equally do so by pressing the thanks button and send us stars. Oganmube Omhlabane is signing off. Let me love and leave you. Let's meet on the other side of the live broadcast as I